Tesla's making robots, and they're poised to change the world, or at least so I'm told. Today we're joined by Randy Kirk, who's an expert on all such things. I'm Brian. Welcome to My Tesla Weekend. So Randy, Optimus, it's a robot. It can walk a bit. What do you think? You're telling me this is going to change everything? What's going on?
Yeah, well, again, Elon says it's going to change everything. But when I first saw Optimus walk out on the stage, I couldn't help but think about my old factory. Now, I sold my factory 15 years ago, so I no longer make bicycle water bottles. But I had about 100 employees, about 70 of those were in the factory. And so I know a little bit about plastics manufacturing and things associated with that. And I look at this bot and I go, if I could buy one of those for $200,000 right now, I would, if I had my factory. Now, how did I come to that number? Well, I went back, I'm going to just pull a little sample here. So for those of people who don't know what a bicycle water bottle, that's a bicycle water bottle, okay? And that's what the one that we made, and one of our customers was Apple, and we were the largest bicycle water bottle manufacturer in the world. And the cap on a bicycle water bottle is different than most bottles. It pops off. Now you can buy screw-on ones too, but it pops off and it has a tether. Okay, the tether holds it on, which is a nice thing. If you're riding a bicycle, you don't want to have to be dealing with a lid that you take off. So this is an issue though, if you're going to assemble the caps before you ship them. Okay, so you have to get the tether on first, and then you come around and you put the cap on, all right? Well, that's not very easy to automate. And we were making 5 million of these a year. We wanted to automate them, okay? So we bring in 3 different I went to the automation show down in Anaheim and met some guys, and I brought 3 of those guys to the factory, and 3 of them came out with bids. And all 3 bids were the same. Roughly now this is 40 years ago, 35 years ago. Roughly $100,000, all 3 were in the same ballpark. And all 3 of them said, but we won't guarantee it'll work. Okay. So now I'm buying 40 years ago, so that's at least 200,000 now, okay, 300,000 in equivalent money. So all those years ago, I'm looking at this $100,000 piece of equipment that's going to be stationary and can only do one thing, and that they won't guarantee it'll work. Now I'm looking at an Optimus robot now for about the same money as I would have paid then in terms of now dollars, okay, that has all kinds of flexibility. It can pick things up and move them around. It can put these caps on a bottle. It just needs to be trained. It can take those bottles and put them in a box and grab the taper and tape the box. I mean, the robot can do all these different things. And if I get out of the water bottle business, maybe I can send them over to my other line where I'm extruding bicycle tire liners. And it can cut bicycle tire liners or put those in boxes. I'm going for the same money. And I'm like, I would have put my order in that day for not 1, probably for about 5. Now that's right. One little factory, okay?
and Gen 1 will definitely be slower than a human, but it can run close to, if not absolutely, 24 hours a day. So right there, it could be a quarter the speed of a human and still match the 4 humans it replaces.
And if you do more, you put in another one.
Right, and then you've got the versatility to, it can also do the janitorial work. It can also do, right there you've replaced, because maybe you don't need that much labor on the production line, but there are other duties that it could fulfill. And yeah, and employees do not take kindly to being told to go out and wash your car. I think Optimus would be fine with it, provided it's sufficiently watertight. I don't think it would be posting on Glassdoor complaining about that.
Well, my second thing was, as I'm watching this happen though, and people are saying, yeah, it's 5 years out and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking, I'd buy it the way it is. I mean, bring it now,
Right.
It can sit in a chair. I don't even care if it can balance itself. He can sit all day long. It's okay. I don't need it to move. So right. I was like ready to buy it the first time. And then they showed the second version. at the investor day, and I'm like, no, I'm still ready to buy it right now if I still own it. And then I had already been saying for months on my show, I've been saying they're already building lots of these. They're already making a bunch of these, okay? And they're already deploying them in the factory right now, okay? And everybody's laughing at me. I'm saying they're going to build 1,000 in 2023, and everybody's laughing at me. And then I said, and not only that, they're going to go full retail. They're going to start selling them in 2024, and they're going to have a line, and they're going to sell 1 million of them in 2024. And I got more laughter. So I just started bringing in the experts. I don't know. What do I know? I only know how to do plastic water bottles. So I bring in experts who know about robotics, who know about AI, who know what it takes to make something like that work in a factory, who know how difficult it is to actually build it. So I've got guys like John Gibbs, who was another contributor to the Elon Musk mission. I bring in Scott Walter, who is a 40-year robotics expert. I bring in Joe Justice. I bring in all these guys to be on my show to talk about what are the complexities and what's the problem and why can't it be being done now. And by the time we had those shows, all of them were convinced that they're going to build 1,000 this year and build 1 million next year because there's nothing complex about this product.
The interesting thing to me was one of the initial criticisms I saw, why on earth would a car company get into robotics like this? And you know who owns Boston Dynamics, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, Hyundai owns Boston Dynamics, and then Volkswagen announced we're getting into robotics, and the same people were like, "Oh, it's genius! Who could have?" I'm starting to think maybe it's not the company you don't like, but the person in charge, which is, by the way, kind of a mental illness. Get past it.
No.
If you don't like him, don't like him. But to pretend that these accomplishments mean nothing is pure insanity.
I've heard that Edison wasn't a particularly nice guy.
But here's the thing, is the CEOs that you can't say that about, it's because you can't say anything about them.
Right.
Tell me anything about Mary Barra's life outside of GM.
Right.
I can't. Jim Farley, know nothing about his life outside of Ford, except that he is Chris Farley's cousin.
Right.
And then the other thing that was the unique advantage I saw, if I owned a robotics company and then saw the robotics day, at the AI day, you know that nobody else used the crash testing software to dial in the specs of their robots. Boston Dynamics went trial and error, and that's why it took them 20 years. And that means they've got a lot of parts that are over-engineered and some parts that are probably still under-engineered, and it's going to be outrageously expensive.
Yeah, so the big deal for Optimus, again, after interviewing all these guys, the clarity, I mean, if people want to go back and look at those videos, they can get the same clarity. This, you could build, if you got this in a box of parts, you could build it in your garage on a couple of tables. That might be easier than some IKEA products, okay, to build this thing. It's not hard to build at all. All of the components are not hard to manufacture. You're talking about motors that they're already making. You're talking about plastic parts that can be easily molded. You're talking about stuff that could be done in 3D printers. Everybody that came in that were experts in all these areas said, there's no part in this product that's hard to make, and it's not hard to assemble. So I said, okay, is it going to be hard to deploy? So we started talking about what is it going to take to deploy? And everybody agreed only two things stand in the way. There's two limiting factors, balance and hands. That's it. So it's got to be able to balance if it's going to be able to walk around and stuff. That's just software. That's just practice. That's what we've been seeing with FSD. And so if you deploy 50 of them, I think it was John Gibbs that said this, why don't they just get a big warehouse and have 50 of these guys walking around the warehouse with an obstacle course, and all 50 of them are all updating all the other 49 based on their experience every single day by just uploading the data. How long could it take before the thing could work perfectly using that approach?
And you want to hear what's crazy is you've got to change the obstacle course constantly to give them new data. Who could do that? Yeah, they could be entrusted with constantly changing their obstacle course, with moving blocks around, and now we got to climb this. They
and
will
climb it or miss, not run into it or whatever it happens to be.
stack it incorrectly and learn to stack it correctly.
Right. So now you just have the hands, okay? So now you got the balance, that's all figured out. Now you got the hand. Well, you got the same issue. This is why I think they're building 1,000 of them. Okay, imagine that same building, and again, I think it was John Gibbs who said this. Imagine that same building, maybe some building that they just leased or bought up, or I think leased up in north of Fremont. Maybe they got this big spot, and they're just going to put a bunch of workstations all over that building that screw things into walls and that pick things up and that assemble things or glue things or whatever else. All these different tasks. And you've got 1,000 robots, and they're just going to these different workstations, and they're being trained. And you've got maybe 200 employees who are just trainers. And they go from bot to bot. They got 1,000, so each guy gets 5. And they go from bot to bot, and they help them figure out how to drill this in and tell them, no, you need to do it a little differently or whatever. And now all that's going on simulations, and it's all being downloaded into all the other bots. And so they're all getting smarter by the day. How long would it take to train these bots to do maybe 10,000 tasks?
Do them.
I think about 8 weeks. 8 weeks.
That's what I was going to say, is to get to 80%, I think they could get to 80% capable in a month. and then, start the march of nines from there. And yeah, they'll never get to 100%, and neither will the guy you just hired.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, these don't have to be perfect. They just have to be better than Dave. Oh, this new guy, Dave, he's terrible. Yeah,
I'm working right now. I'm a consultant, and I do manufacturing and business and marketing consulting. And right now I have a client, and he's got a T-shirt printing facility. And right now, there's one of the jobs that the T-shirt factory has to have, or the T-shirt printer guy has to have, is a guy that takes the T-shirt off of the press, looks at it, makes sure that the QC is good, and puts it on a dryer. I think that the robot could do that. Then he's got another guy at the other end of the dryer after the T-shirt dries, who picks it up, does a second QC, and puts it on a table.
Yeah, and the problem is with today's automation, it could be a wrinkle. You and I would just shake it. Optimus can shake it. Optimus can touch it to make sure. That's interesting. So what I hear you saying is the difference is they've got the manufacturing in ways that other robotics companies don't, except I would say Hyundai does, but they make a lot. They're in a lot of industries. So that one might be an exception. They've got the training network. One of the largest in the world. By now it probably is the largest, and it's only accelerating.
Right.
They've got the batteries. What's missing? And by the way, what do you think they're going to make it out of? Are we thinking carbon fiber? Are we thinking aluminum?
No, it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be sophisticated at all. That's another thing we realized is a lot of the parts will be plastic. The motors, of course, have to be. The motors will be the motors.
Right.
So all of these, some of the things are, the fingers have to be, everything is going to have its own design in terms of the metallurgy. But again, who knows better than Tesla how to develop things of that nature? So they basically said that the robot that we saw on especially the video that we saw,
the new one,
and some of the stuff that we see more recently. The bot is basically ready to go now. It could go to work right now in some factories and do useful work.
How much do you think it will cost to build?
We came up with, we think, the maximum is $6,000.
I came up with 5,000. I didn't say it's the maximum, but I said, yeah.
5,000 is probably right, yeah.
Yeah. And what is the minimum that they would sell it for?
I can't imagine less than $20,000 a year on a lease.
Right. And that's the thing is, I don't know why you'd sell it rather than lease it.
No, you lease it. Especially in the beginning. especially in the
Yeah.
beginning, because so the last phase of this, did I do that video already? I think I just did that video the other day. Yeah, I think I did. The last phase of this is what they call cobotting. So I'm learning all this new stuff. So cobotting is co-working, not just with humans, but with other robots and things that are in the environment. Okay, because the robot, the Optimus, might be loading something where he's working around one of those giant arms. He needs to be able to work in that environment without getting hurt. So you have cobotting. So socializing the bot, teaching the factory workers how to work with the bot, teaching the bot to work with the factory workers, all of that. So I'm saying that there will be a socialization process where the bot is shipped, and a Tesla employee goes to the location, spends a day and a half at least something like a day and a half with that factory, teaching it how to use it, teaching the bot how to understand its new environment, making sure everything's smooth and working, and then that employee goes back, but it becomes the customer service person for future Zooms or whatever. In the meantime, that customer service person will be able to see out the robot's eyes when it's in the factory, so it can tell exactly what is going right and not going right.
Well, and for QC on an assembly line where everything has VINs and whatnot, you can take pictures of everything. Yes. What I was saying is for loading the cars onto trailers, the cars can, of course, load themselves, but someone has to secure them. Optimus can do it. Optimus can then, when it secures it, it can take a photo with the calibration metrics on screen. It can confirm it, and then it can kick it over to a more sophisticated system that can double check it. And if anything does go wrong, if for some reason that car does come loose in transit, they can go back and say, look, the ratchets were absolutely secured. This is not a failure of the robots. This is a failure of something else.
Oh, and the QC part of it is just icing on the cake. So that's a really easy logo to create, but it's possible to have it smear, it's possible to have something missing, and it's possible to have what we call in the trade ink off, okay, where it didn't stick well enough, it didn't adhere, it didn't form correctly, it doesn't actually stick. But anyway, sometimes you can scratch it and the ink comes off. The Tesla robot would be the best ever at QC because the eyes are way better than humans at picking up on everything that you want it to pick up on in terms of QC, and it would be no problem at all for the bot to occasionally scratch one to see if the ink's coming off, just as an example.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Oh, boy. Oh, it's a lot to chew on. So,
can you imagine if they have a reveal? Can you imagine? Just think about it. If they have a reveal showing the robot doing 27 different tasks, one robot, same robot, going from station to station, doing all these different tasks well, and then they put up a thing and they say, okay, it's available, send in your application and a $20,000 deposit, and and you can have this for $20,000 a year or $40,000 a year or whatever.
And the factory that will build these doesn't need to be big because these are small things that are not super complicated. For those who don't know, Randy Kirk is the author of The Elon Musk Mission and The Elon Musk Method, and 11 other books at least. So if you'd like to know how to make money in a recession making bicycles, he's your guy. But all the business experience is very helpful and obviously instrumental, and obviously why you understand what it is we're talking about, and that is awesome. So I thank you for being here. I do want to say for everyone watching, what did we miss? What did we misunderstand? What applications do you see coming for the bot? And at what price do you think they will be sold or leased? Or will it be both or one or the other? Yeah, let us know in the comments. Big thanks to my patrons who get early access, bonus content, oftentimes an ad-free experience, and help keep the channel running. And for everyone else, you can like, you can subscribe, you can follow me, you can go to Randy's channel and check him out, I guess. It's pretty good. So, all right, thank you, everybody, and stay tuned, stay juicy, and I can't wait to hear from you clever robots when I get back from my big trip to Ireland.